Single men, what made you definitely not want a second date with a woman you went out with? Story 1. So, I take this girl out to a bar/restaurant, meeting her for the first time after talking on an online dating site. After she orders her food, she drops the bomb. She tells me for the past 7 years she has been a professional dominatrix. So I'm an open-minded guy. I'm cool with this. She probably has some funny stories, right? Well, she starts telling me these stories, and for the first half hour or so, they are pretty entertaining. Eventually, though, I want to talk about other things. However, anytime I try to change the subject, she immediately brings it back to dudes she pooped on. It got weird. I could barely get a word in. She basically didn't take a breath for 3 hours. Again, I'm a really open-minded guy, but there's only so many consecutive stories of ball gags and double-sided D-butt effers a person can take before even the most open-minded among us starts to feel uncomfortable. At one point, I excuse myself to go to the bathroom. As I stand up and turn around, she seizes this chance to smack my butt and says, "Your butt looks like a baby pumpkin. I could bounce a quarter off it and get back 2 dimes and a nickel." Keep in mind, this lady is a professional. It was crisp and painful. To put this in perspective, I was wearing thick jeans. She hit me in my back pocket, and when I checked myself for damage in the bathroom, there was a clear, fat, red handprint on my butt cheek. Like, I could see the lines in her hand. I could have mooned a psychic, and they would have been able to predict her future. So, I'm about done with this. We finish the meal, and I drive her home while she still blabs tales of donkey tail butt plugs and toys I've never heard of going in places I wish I hadn't heard. So I pull in her driveway. The second the car goes into park, she immediately grabs my nuts, like specifically targeted them. And it wasn't naughty, it was a hostage situation where she had all the power. Then she straight licks the side of my face, chin to hairline, her tongue as big as a Shetland pony. I do not want. Then she looks me in the eyes and says menacingly, "I'm gonna strap you into my X dungeon." The F you are, I choose life, I think to myself. How do I get out of this? She literally has me by the balls here. So here's what I come up with. I tell her that, "Hell yeah, let's do it. I have a special toy I keep in my trunk. Is that okay?" She says, "Sure, bring any toys you want." So I tell her to meet me at her doorstep while I bust it out because I want it to be a surprise. As she steps out of the car, she gives me a look that she thinks is naughty, but is actually terrifying. The second her feet touch the ground, I slammed the car in reverse and fly out of her driveway as fast as my car can go. You know how most people pull out of a driveway, switch to drive, then drive off ahead? I did not do that. I did not want 1 second of switching gears to give her the chance to catch me. I pulled out of the driveway and just kept going down the street in reverse for like 5 blocks. The passenger door was flapping around still open because I took off before she shut it. When I am satisfied she won't catch me, I close the door, put it in drive, and go home. Gotta get back on the horse, right? Wrong. I go home, ice my balls, and deleted my online dating profile. Not today, Satan. About to spit some facts. Mainly facts. I will say nothing wrong with the stuff she was into. More power to her. However, if you choose to get into BDSM, there are 2 incredibly important intertwined aspects to doing it right: communication and consent. It sounds like this woman was just assuming you were okay with stuff, and that is a huge no-no. Do whatever wild stuff you want, folks, but talk about it and get consent. Particularly when it comes to grabbing balls and pooping on people. Story 2. First and only date with a girl I barely knew through some friends. I drove to her house, she got in my car and smelled like she had just taken a massive crap but forgot to wipe. Went to dinner, I barely ate. Made an excuse to end early, dropped her off, and drove home with the windows down in the middle of winter. What the F? Story 3. I was supposed to pick her up at noon. I got to the house and knocked. She didn't answer. I texted her. She finally responds and opens the door. She says she's sorry she overslept, goes to the freezer, pulls out a handle of vodka, pulls the tomato juice from the fridge, mixes a huge Bloody Mary and drinks it down, makes a second one and says, "Let's go." The date wasn't that bad, but I just can't roll like that. Story 4. Constantly talking about how awful her ex was. Story 5. She chewed gum through our initial date, which was a decent Italian place including a bottle of good white wine. And she proceeds to tell me how she had married early, her 2 kids, girls, realized she was a lesbian, left her husband and took most of his money, lived with girlfriend number 1, left girlfriend number 1 for number 2, ended that and then realized that long term she needed a D. I noped the F out of there so fast. Here I was halfway through the first sentence about to ask you if you were Willy Wonka or something, because come on, gum isn't that bad. Then it actually got kinda bad, and I felt bad for thinking that about you. Not bad enough to not still mention it in the video, but kind of bad. Story 6. She forgot to mention that she had a boyfriend. Edit, geez, this blew up. Let me add a few things. I became suspicious when I saw the background of her phone. It was a picture of her kissing a man. When I asked her about that picture, she told me it was her boyfriend. The reason she was doing this was because her boyfriend was boring. She couldn't answer when I asked her why she didn't break up with him in the first place. Told her that what she was doing was not cool and that she needs to be honest to her boyfriend. Ended the date afterwards. Edit 2. This was a Tinder date, by the way. Story 7. First date. Her. Are you sure you want to be my career? Don't you think that you should wait until our children are old enough to have their lives together? Then you'll be free to do what you want. Me. Listen, I'm leaving. Bye. Please like and subscribe if you made it this far. I hope you'll enjoy the rest of the video and have a wonderful day. Story 8. She showed up in a dirty white dress. Her hair looked like it had not been brushed in months. During dinner, she told me that she lived at home, never wanted to get a job, and that she stole her dad's car while he was asleep to meet me at the restaurant. Then when she found out that I was divorced, she said, "You didn't work hard enough to save your marriage." I put down the chopsticks, went and paid, and said, "Nice meeting you," and left. That date sounds like a roller coaster that just went down, down and down and down and, oh God, the tracks are out, jump! Story 9. I actually have a list of such things. My favorite is that she confessed to doing meth occasionally. If she can't even commit to meth, how can you expect her to commit to you? Story 10. She forgot to take off her wedding ring on the second date. Story 11. She didn't say anything. Like, there is being nervous, and then there is that. We were taking a film class together in school and agreed to go see a movie together, 50-50, that counted for extra credit. It became clear a few days beforehand that this was turning into a full-on date, and I just rolled with it. We were both single, and I thought we could have a fun night out together. I asked if we could get dinner after the movie to talk about it and get to know each other better. She seemed excited by the idea, and I was looking forward to the night. I picked her up, and she was dead silent. She was dressed to the nines for a casual date and was clearly nervous. I did my best to break the ice and run the conversation, and the best I could get out of her was a nervous chuckle and, yep. After the movie, I asked if she still wanted dinner, and she said absolutely, and then proceeded to watch me eat dinner while she stared at me. When I dropped her off at home, she told me she had a really nice time and hoped we could hang out outside of class again. I told her for sure, and we said goodnight. She flat out never said another word to me in class again. A year or so later, I ran into her at a party and asked her what the whole deal was about. She confessed she was so goddamn anxious that she had no clue what to do or say. Apparently, that was the first date she had ever been on with a guy. It's a shame, too, because in class, we got along really well. I was just so put off by the silence that I didn't know how to approach her for the rest of the semester. Apparently, she's a semi-professional golfer now. I haven't heard from her in years, but I hope she's doing well out there. Oh, I feel bad for the poor dear, and obviously you did too. I have some social anxiety, but that sounds pretty rough. Honestly, not sure what else you could have done. Sounds like you tried to encourage discussion, but yeah, if someone just doesn't talk to you, it's hard not to interpret that as a stop sign. Story 12. Went out for coffee. She brought a bottle of vodka and kept topping up her cup. I politely asked her what the deal was, and she said she liked to party. When it was time to go, she fell over and started screaming that I had to help her up. I did, told her to wait right there, and left. Edit. I helped her stand up and then bounced. I'm not a complete a-hole. Story 13. This one girl told me she was giving me a chance because a mutual friend said I was nice. She was totally out of my league and we both knew it, but she insisted on acting like it was a favor to go out to dinner with me. If she's not actively happy about seeing me, I don't really want to see her either. Story 14. When she asked me for my birthday, then proceeded to tell me everything that was wrong with me as a person based solely on my horoscope. Story 15. Nurse I met on Tinder. She told me she disliked all her patients and that sometimes she would simply ignore them for long periods of time. That's a no from me, dog. I will never understand people who get into jobs that they seem to hate like that. I've known a few people who work in healthcare or with kids who just seem to hate them, and I'm always like, the money isn't that good. Why are you doing that job? Story 16. Pregnant, but no worries. The father is locked up. Story 17. I arrived at her place and she told me to hop in her car as she just needed to drop something off at a friend's house real quick. It wasn't a friend. It was someone she had an appointment to sell those hot oil infusers and their millions of scented inserts to. I sat in a stranger's home for 90 minutes while they smelled them all. She wanted to go to dinner afterwards and I asked her to please drop me off at the car so I could go home. She had a business to run. Guess it didn't even make it a whole first date. Story 18. She spent 30 minutes talking about her ex who apparently sat on his butt at home during most of the 18 to 27 years playing Xbox while she was working 2 jobs and getting her pregnant twice. Then after she finished this speech, she spent 10 minutes telling me that she now was going to get a man who had a job and money and he was going to take care of her and her kids, etc., etc. I left after this part having paid for the dinner and thinking many, many unpleasant thoughts. Story 19. Went to dinner. She was on her phone the entire time texting, even when we were talking. Figured she was just in it for a free dinner, because really, what's the point of agreeing to a date if you're not going to try to get to know the person? That's when you put down cash for your half of the bill and walk out. F that. Please leave your story in the comments. I would love to make a video on them in the future. Also, don't forget to like and subscribe.